All right, that's right, folks. Once again, you're back with a wonderful show that I've got planned. I couldn't be more excited. We're doing things a little differently, and we're doing them differently based upon what somebody else has done. But first, I want to introduce three of the most special people in my life, in my world, to the show. We're going to start with the youngest one because he came along last, and it is totally his fault. He is an amazing cosplayer. Gamer Supreme. I will never play D&D with him because there's no point. When you look at his picture, you will see this amazing background of nothing but nerddom around him, which is very impressive. It makes me very, very proud. I can honestly say I watched this young man grow up into what I feel like is one of my favorite nerds in the world to talk to. Please welcome to the show, William. How are you, buddy?
Hi, everybody. It is good to go and be here. It's good to go and have a chance to go and talk with you guys. We haven't done this.
Not
in this format, we haven't done this, but we haven't had a chance to actually go and talk in a bit.
So little nerd in me is very, very proud of your of what's in your background. Always proud of it. Every time I see a truly nerd background, I'm like, yes. Moving on to a truly nerd background, he is one of the most talented men I know. Whenever we are together, we talk cartoons, we talk televisions. His mind is in a different place than the rest of us, but he's got it on point and he can draw. Please welcome to the show. He's been on the show many times. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Gary Burdell.
Howdy, everybody. Thanks for having me, Hawk. Really appreciate it.
Straight up nerd really background again.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, man. They got the Star Wars Nightmare on Elm Street back here. And I'll show you guys my Kenner Star Wars shelf there. And you can't see the shelf underneath it, but I got like some old
awesome
arcade stuff underneath there. So.
Nerd backgrounds are better than most things. And he is one of my oldest and dearest friends. Most of what we do now with the show is because of conversations that I've had with this man. He is the co-host of Pulp Culture Minefield. Please welcome to the show, Keith.
Hello. How we doing?
It is good to have you guys all here. I'm going to change the view for a second just because I want to see everybody. So I sent you guys an email, and I didn't tell you why. If everybody remembers, this time last year, this amazing picture popped up, and it had Will Smith, Wesley Snipes, Martin Lawrence, and Eddie Murphy. And Will went on to say that this is the Black Hollywood's Mount Rushmore. Take out Martin and Wesley and put in Morgan and Denzel, and I would completely agree with him. That being said, if you look at
Samuel Jackson too.
Well, yeah, put Samuel. Yeah, you're right. Take out Will and put up Samuel, and you're absolutely 100% right.
But I have to argue that Will Smith has to be on there. I mean, if we just even start off on this, let's look at that Men in Black, Independence Day. That's tough. Taking those out.
We can compare duds. We can definitely compare duds because Will. I was
he's got
more duds.
Oh no,
Samuel's more duds than Will, but Samuel's also better, more talented, has more work, and he can do Broadway. So
we're not talking about Broadway, it's in Hollywood. So what's the fine?
So I say all that to say this: for our area of nerddom, this right here, honestly, is the Black Mount Rushmore right here. This group of guys, this group of people. And let's face it, we've had a rough year. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it because we sugarcoat enough things. We've had a rough year. We've had actually I go farther, rough year and a half. Bad things have happened, and all of us are great friends with all of our nerd community here. But we've never actually talked to them. We've never actually said the things that we've never hardly said anything. So this is our opportunity, and I'll kick it off. And yeah, folks, just for those of you who are watching, there are going to be some negative things that happen here today. There are negative things to be said here, but this is all coming from love because we want you guys to know us and our struggle. as nerds, we already struggle. Okay. As Black nerds, it's a whole nother kind of struggle. And you guys, every once in a while, we let you guys forget that we're Black. I don't mind doing that I mean, and you guys jump in at any point in time I say something that you disagree with. I don't mind putting it out there that I want my friends to just acknowledge me as Hawk. But you can't forget that we are Black. And so we have Black struggles. When we are together with our white friends and the police pull over, yes, your job is to stand in front of us. You are literally saving our lives. If you don't believe us, look at the George Floyd video. And I hate to go there, but
a lot of other videos like that.
Yeah. That's
not that ended that way, but there's a lot of videos where,
So I guess that's my first point for the people that actually, these people do love us. We know you guys love us. Let me just start that. And we love you. But our reality is different. It's like Gary said, George Floyd was not the first one.
And even if that wasn't the last, not even the last that month, I believe.
Not even that month.
Have you ever thought about it like this? If it really wasn't for like one device, this wouldn't be happening right now. And we're very lucky to have that type of technology to show like, hey, this is actually happening. There are white supremacist gangs who have infiltrated the LAPD already. It's been proven. They're called the Executioners, and there are many more who've infiltrated police forces. Do you also know when police are hired to become police, they do not take pictures of their tattoos or anything like that. Like they do the people that they process in there. I think tattoos are important, especially when you're in a job like that. It's like, what is this affiliated with? Why? Okay, we need to research this kind of thing. And this is why it's gotten sloppy. And now you have like a lot of these racist and white supremacists who've infiltrated like hospitals, police departments, fire departments, pharmacies, banks being the big one. Because the big joke is, oh man, they're not going to give us a loan. It's like, that's because a lot of these people, and some of these people were kind of raised to be this way. It's just ingrained, and then it was just normalized. So sorry, I didn't mean to go off.
No, that's literally what we're here for, man. That's literally what we're here for.
It's like they've infiltrated everything, and it's like now with this one device, we're able to catch these people bullying these kids that are just walking down the street or threatening them or whatever. Like the video of the army guy the guy who's in the army or the Marine that was harassing the young Black kid who was just walking down the street, and he even like put his hands on him and stuff too. That asshole lost his job. He also went to jail too, and he had a criminal background. The kid didn't. What does that tell you? And I'm glad this is happening. I'm glad people are losing their jobs. I'm glad that people are getting kicked in the ass. I'm glad that police departments are being looked at under at least a slightly bigger magnifying glass. I'm glad that racist assholes are losing, their jobs. I'm happy about it. Anytime a racist loses their job, an angel gets its wings.
I knew that was coming. So I guess that leads me to the next direction I want to take this. And again, this is supposed to be more informative. Also, and Will said it earlier. We ain't done this, and we should have done this a long time ago. But this is mostly meant to be informative. So to inform our friends, what you guys don't know that we don't tell you is, yes, we have issues all the time. Still. Still.
And I'll tell you this right now. I'm going to say this right now. We get what you're trying to say. I get what a person's trying to say when they're like, well, I don't see color. And it's like, I understand what you're trying to say, but keep in mind there are people that do, and those people that do determine if I get a house, a bank loan, arrested, anything. So those are the people we have to worry about because they do see it, and we need you to see it. So you can stop those people that are treating us like that when it is happening and when things are going on. So keep in mind, if you just because you see color, it's not a negative thing. It's just it shows you how the world works and how other people that see it in a bad way, in a negative way. It's like you need to distinguish that. Again, it's like a culture that has normalized this shit.
And
Well, there's also culture that comes with the color. You know, one of the things that has really been highlighted, and what those like us become aware of when we're growing up and going to school, is that our culture, such as it is, isn't really something that is really thought of as, first of all, being substantial, supportive, great, creative, and being one of the major ingredients in this melting pot society that we have. Too many try to dismiss, distance, distract,
that's the distraction.
dissolve, but also borrow greatly from the culture that we've created in being a part of this country. And
Now, if I may, though, for clarification, so are you saying, or when you're saying culture, you're talking about black culture, or you're talking about black nerd culture? Because those are two distinct and separate things.
distinct and separate, but also, yes, I'm talking about both at the same time. Because black nerd culture, for instance, you know, the entertainment industry has not yet caught up with that.
Not even a little bit.
And given some of the people that have contributed to that over the decades, the fact that, you know, for instance, a lot of us here in this chat, I mean, all of us should know who Kevin Graveau is and what his background is. This guy is intelligent enough to have created some of the most interesting pieces of entertainment that we've seen up to this point. You know, being the main guy behind the Underworld film series and the comics and the con appearances that he's had. Also one of the deepest voices in entertainment. I'm sorry, he's just got that deep voice going.
Hello.
But you know, he also contributed something really kind of neat to Marvel Comics, which is he gave them a black Superman character called the Blue Marvel. And for all of the stuff that you've seen the MCU and Marvel utilize over the last just even 10 years, nobody has heard word one about the Blue Marvel.
I don't think you can find anything on him right now, like at all.
You can. It's just the fact that nothing gets done. You know, it's great.
He's
that
a great character too.
Yeah,
and,
yeah. You've heard all kinds of stuff about Black Panther. I mean, as well you should have.
But I will
movie.
say Blue Marvel has the same problem that Mr. Terrific has.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are watching, this is us also proving that we are black nerds, not just. See,
to be exact.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to lean more toward Icon, and I even have issues with that particular character.
Well,
but
the reason why I didn't bring up Icon and the reason why I didn't bring up Milestone yet was because we were, you know, I was attaching this to a particular personality in person, which is Kevin Graveau. Right. I mean, yes, we can get into Milestone because Warner Brothers completely whiffed on the whole Milestone revival. That was one of the key points of the fandom, DC fandom event they had.
Yeah.
But you notice post DC fandom event. Now remember, leading up to that DC fandom event, there was a press release from Milestone that they were going to have, they were coming back, new comics, and they were going to start developing films and television and other media properties. Reginald Hudlin, who was one of the Hudlins who developed House Party and various other movies, was made the chief guy in charge of doing that for them. Okay. Hollywood star Michael B. Jordan signed up to help out. So for the DC fandom event, they talked about that. Post DC fandom event, once the whole news about J.J. Abrams and his $500 million thing and all the stuff that he's developing, suddenly it goes to Superman. And what's the first name that comes up? It's Michael B. Jordan.
Which he is doing Static Shock, and I'm very much looking forward to that.
That's one of the properties. But when people say doing Static Shock, let me clarify something.
He's producing.
He's not playing. He's not playing the character. And there's a reason why he signed up with Milestone, which I think was part of the conversation about why he didn't want to do J.J. Abrams's version of Superman with Ta-Nehisi Coates when it was revealed that they were going to go for the Clark Kent version rather than the version that Michael B. Jordan said that he would be more interested in doing. You know, Val Zod was one of them, and the other one is Calvin. And the other one is Calvin Ellis,
aka President Superman.
Right.
And the thing is that they completely ignored that about the conversation and realizing that this actor, this very popular actor, had really he knew a lot more about comics than they thought, probably more than many of the executives at Warner Brothers. And they thought that they were doing him a favor by saying, you can be Clark Kent, when in actuality, he's telling them, no, I don't want to be that character. I would rather not. But on top of all of that, forgetting the fact that he's already signed up with Milestone to help them develop their characters.
Right.
And from the very beginning, I think he's wanted to play Icon. I think he wants to be Icon. But wait. The reason why I say that is to say this. It's another example of how a company that really doesn't care and or has a complete understanding of what they own can completely mess something up, even though they're trying to be helpful. And in this particular case, you have a star like Michael B. Jordan that knows a heck of a lot more about comics than probably even JJ and Ta-Nehisi Coates. And he knew enough to say, hey guys, this is what I want. And they directly decided to contradict that and go a different direction. That's the reason why he's not playing the character.
You bring up an very interesting point. I don't know if anybody else saw it in that discussion. For those of you that are watching, again, and I'm going to continue to say this throughout the show because I don't want anyone to be offended by what we're trying to do here with this discussion. We appreciate you, but do not mistake our desire to develop ourselves. I don't need you to give me Superman. I am Superman. You know what I'm saying? We don't need your permission to be great. We already are. So stop trying to be our great white saviors all the time and just be our friends. And
but we need the people in power to listen to us.
Yes,
is one thing. You know, we need them to recognize that we have ideas, we have directions that we want to go, and it doesn't always jive with, unfortunately, what many times is their either limited or non-understanding of where we are going. You know, it's great that we have Black Panther. It's great that Marvel Studios gave us that. But it's time now to develop characters that many creators of color can actually benefit from. And by benefit, I'm talking now financially. By making a Black Clark Kent, you are ultimately not allowing people of color to benefit from that financially. If you look at the people if you look at everyone that financially benefits from doing one more Clark Kent story. None of that money goes to anyone that looks like us.
Yeah. What were you getting ready to say? Well, I saw that lean back and hand rub. What was you getting ready to say?
Well, here's something that we always want to be cognizant of. Right.
Yeah.
So when looking at Black properties, so the Milestone universe, it has some great things in there. I am very, very, very concerned if we go make an Icon movie. Because you need to go through and look at the story behind the character, because I can see how it can be easily politicized. For those who don't know, Icon is an alien that landed in the South during the slavery area, and he took the form of the first person you saw, who was a Black woman, and so he became a Black child and went and led through slavery. Through his life, he discovered they had superpowers, and through those superpowers, he was able to go through and enrich himself and make himself better into the modern world, and he believes in the bootstrap paradox. So pick yourself up by your own bootstraps. So it's a very conservative character that's there that preaches, well, you should be able to go through and do X, Y, and Z, and you should be able to go through and do this on your own. But it's a character that's able to go through and do that only because he has superpowers. So the character of Icon itself is a problem.
Yes.
Now, if you go through and you focus on the other characters, so Rocket and the other side characters, if we go through and make the movie more about them and less about Icon, then I can go through it and get behind that. But if we go through and push, Icon is great, Icon is great, Icon is great, then that becomes a very easy way to go through and twist it, to go through and say, well, why can't you be like the Icon? Because I don't got no superpowers.
I'm thinking that's the angle that they probably should take, because that's ultimately, I mean, spoilers for those that haven't read the Icon books. When they brought that series to a close, you found out that ultimately that's where it was going. Mm-hmm. That the real character behind all of this is Rocket.
Yeah, Rocket.
That's your lead character. So it's not only advancing people of color, Black people, Black society, but Black women. Very important.
So that I would watch all day long if I could go through and have a Rocket centric.
And that's the reason why, I suggest to people, you ought to be watching Young Justice, because Young Justice is so far the only animated series. I'm going to repeat that. The only animated series that is incredibly well balanced between known and not as well known characters, both older, more established characters, younger characters, and all colors, creeds, and backgrounds.
Yep.
That is the only one. Not Justice League, not Justice League International, not any of the rest of them, not even Teen Titans.
Not even Secret Wars either. And they tried, but it was, first of all, it was bad. But
yeah. Young Justice is balanced, but on top of all of that, it is well told.
I was actually kind of surprised, Will, that you haven't done a Guardian costume, to be honest with you. Because when they made that switch, I was like, you know what, Will's going to do this. Because you kind of look like him anyway, so.
Well, it's been, with everything that's going on, it's been a bit trying to go through and get back in the costume. I mean, I fully admit I've let it go through and slide by the wayside. I want to go through and come back with a vengeance, but first things first, I need to go and get my conventions back.
Right. Which leads me to another point. I want to bring this up again. And again, folks, this is a discussion more than it is an advertisement, but I got to put some things out there. Got to pay the bills. Geekmas is happening December 11th right here in Springfield, Missouri. There'll be more information about it. We don't have our guest yet, but we have a space. I am looking forward to once again being able to have a convention and hang out with these guys. And of course, you're watching a very special edition of the show with my Mount Rushmore of Black nerddom. I'll be honest with you, we're bringing you guys into a private conversation. This is what happens every time the four of us get together. It really is. We talk for days, and I'm gonna make it even funner. So I'm gonna start with Gary. Gary, turn around and show us your favorite thing behind you.
My favorite thing?
Yeah, favorite thing behind you.
Behind me.
Your most prized possession.
Man, there's some really cool stuff back here. But if I had to pick anything, it would probably be this guy right here. This belonged to my grandmother. This is actually from it's from the 20s. I'm trying to figure out what year exactly. But it's a film called Kiko the Kangaroo. If you look behind me, I have a projector, like right there, and there's like a stack of movies.
Nice.
And it's her old projector. And this is one of the cartoons that are on there. It's Kiko the Kangaroo. And I remember seeing this when I was a little kid, and then like my grandma stored it again. And I was like, man, I really wish I had that little cartoon with the kangaroo on it. And I doubt that the projector works, but I know if I bought another model like it, I could actually watch this. And I believe this is so old it doesn't actually have sound; it's actually silent. And along with other movies, but this one's my favorite one, and I'd really like to get that on a T-shirt.
Nice. What about you, Will?
Let's see. That would be my favorite hobby on the face of the planet, Dungeons and Dragons. Because Hawk, you know me, you know I've been a gamer.
Yes,
you know
you
that
have.
we've been doing this for years.
I'll be honest with you. It was you that made me stick with gaming and let it be enjoyable. It wasn't just because it was there. It was because sometimes being a nerd, you just can't be a nerd openly. And with I seen you grab something. Keith, what do you got?
Oh, well, my possession. Well, I'm in the middle of moving everything around, reconstructing a brand new studio. But it's actually two things. You know those vault books that they came out with?
Right.
Oh, cool.
Very, very cool. I love when Marvel and DC do that. To me, that's super awesome.
It really is like having a museum in your bookshelf. And I like to go through and just peruse that stuff and add to that this, because I thought this was a radically good idea.
Yes.
I love how well constructed this is, well thought out, well written, and for many people, their first introduction to Calvin Ellis. So
for me,
love it.
For me, and I have a
fun fact. Actually, I'm gonna say this really quick. Keith is the one that actually suggested to me to buy the Alex Ross book Mythology, and he's the reason why I own that book. And it's a bitchin' book, man. Alex Ross is amazing.
Yes, he is.
Which I own a Battle of the Planets #1 signed by him.
Nice. So for me, a lot of you guys know I'm a professional wrestler on the weekends from time to time when I can. And one of my characters actually does wear masks, so I actually have more than one character. And I really thought it would be really cool. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but that says Rey Mysterio on it.
Ooh.
So my actual last match in this particular mask, because it's way too small, I had to get one to fit. My last match was right after he signed it, and I wore this mask in that last match. So that was really cool for me.
Wow.
Nice.
God, we are nerdy.
Well, everybody's a nerd or a geek for something. That's really what it comes down to. It's just what is deemed to be the more acceptable thing. You can be a nerd for sports. You can be a nerd for cars. You can be a nerd for skiing. You can be a nerd for airplanes, all that stuff.
Which, honestly, ironically, we've been doing that series. We just, our last show was John Evol's a nerd for acting. You guys can see that on YouTube. Here's my question, because I really want to continue this discussion, because we've never actually done this out loud for other people to see. It's always been a private conversation. And we all have had influences, both black and white and otherwise. But I want to focus more on the whole black nerd part of your growing up, because, and I know this is going to offend people, and I'm sorry if this offends you, but the black...
No. Uncomfortable conversation is necessary.
I agree 1,000%.
That's how breakthroughs are made.
I feel like from time to time, especially where I grew up in Chicago, being a black nerd was 100 times harder than being a white nerd. So I want to ask my guys, what was your what I don't know if I can say the word. What was your influence and get the right response? But we'll try that and try to develop it from there. And we'll start with Keith. What was your biggest influence that kept you grounded into your nerddom as well as your roots?
Yeah, start with the oldest guy. You know what? I'm going to go back a bit, and I'm going to say that there are actually three things. And the first was the television series I Spy. That show, for me, pretty much set the table for, I think, how entertainment should go and how people of color can be portrayed on television. Second, definitely Star Trek, Nichelle Nichols, and the rest of the cast, really. Goes without saying. And then third, it's going to be, at least for me, it's going to be a television series called Mantis. And that came from Renaissance Pictures or Renaissance Television. And the cool thing, yet sad thing about that was Mantis taught me that for all of the advances that we can make, we're still not past seeing a man of color being considered both the hero and the smartest man at the exact same time.
Right.
Okay. Mantis proved that with the pilot, the lead character was the inventor and the hero. In order to get the pilot going into series, Fox wanted changes made. So that's when Roger Rees was brought in to be the tech inventor, and the hero was just made the hero.
Yeah. And I was really disappointed with that. I really feel like Mantis was done decades before it should have been done.
Yeah.
Well, no. I think it was at the right time. It was definitely at the right time.
I thought it was more ahead of its time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
more of a show you would have seen in like 2002, 2003.
Yeah,
I mean,
and like blow up.
It's Iron Man combined with Black Panther.
Right.
You know,
and
Batman.
It could have been Super Force. So
there is that.
And this is where I leave the conversation. I'll see you guys. This has been a great show.
All right, Gary. So, what was your influence? What kept you grounded into your Black nerddom?
Well, I love Star Wars, of course, because that was just number one. The weird thing for me was when I was growing up, and there's a lot of movies that were, in Black nerddom and things that weren't. But the problem, what I was seeing is that, except like movies like Last Dragon, like that was another movie that I was just like, boom, like I love the kung fu movies and all that stuff. But like in other films, like mainstream films that were considered Black films, the Black guy was always like the sidekick. He was put to the back. He wasn't as cool as his white counterpart, like that kind of thing. Lethal Weapon's a great example of that. Even though Danny Glover is like the straight man, he's fucking smarter than Mel Gibson's character. It's obvious through the whole series. He's got his shit together better than he does, but he's not. But they make it to where he's not as an interesting character, and he's almost desexualized, where he should also be like a big front man like Glover, because he's got his shit together more than Glover does.
Ernie Hudson, Ghostbusters.
Ernie Hudson, Ghostbusters. Ernie was supposed to be a scientist.
Well, here's the thing.
Well, it was originally written for Eddie Murphy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Eddie Murphy couldn't do it, and then they put Ernie Hudson in there, and then they kind of just cut back a bunch of his lines, which I think they should have gone into his character a lot more.
It happened again with the 2016 Ghostbusters.
Yep.
They did it again with the women, because originally, what's her name?
Leslie Jones.
No. What the one with the glasses? God, what is her name?
Melissa McCarthy.
Okay, her character was originally going to be the Leslie Jones character, and they switched it.
No shit.
And so, my thing was always, why did you have to have the streetwise character? What was the benefit?
But I will say this: she was a historian, though. Remember?
But why couldn't you have made her a doctor?
She was a ghetto historian. They make sure to make it a ghetto historian.
Right. That's right.
That's right. But other influences were like when I was younger were comic book artists because you didn't see what they looked like. You didn't know what the fuck they looked like. We didn't have the internet, and like they weren't on TV a lot. So, you didn't know what these guys looked like. I didn't go to conventions at that time. I was young. I was like 5, 6 years old looking at these books. And it's like, whoever's drawing these, it didn't matter who was drawing it. It was stuff that I was really into. It doesn't care who the face is behind this. They're producing this beautiful thing that I'm into. And then when I got older and I got to, more in depth with like the hip hop culture, I was realizing that a lot of these guys were making references to stuff like Voltron and Battle of the Planets and Lost in Space and Frankenstein. I mean, Jesus Christ, you listen to MF Doom. I mean, these guys are all nerds. They just express it in a different way, and like that was another segue into like nerd culture. So it has followed me pretty much my entire life. And it's just who I am. It's like from the beginning. It started when I was like 4 or 5 years old.
Nice.
And
what about you, Will?
I viewed it and lived through it.
Me, what's going to keep me grounded is going to be my 2 biggest hobbies. So first, it's going to go through and be comic books, because I've been doing that. Comic books help me to read. So when I was a kid, I was at my grandparents' house. And I didn't want to go through and read, and so they saw a comic book store that took me there, and hooked. 30 years later, hooked. And
100 boxes later.
I measured. I measured, and I'm not joking. I have 2.5 tons worth of comic books.
Nice. That's like 2 cars, man.
Yeah.
2 small ones, but 2 cars.
Yeah. So what you see back here? No. This is not. No, there's basement, completely full. It's like a pallet. It's great. But with comic books, I can go lose myself. I can go through and tell my stories. And Gary's right. Like back when we were growing up, I didn't know who these people looked like. I mean, I barely knew Stan Lee was, and the only reason I knew who Stan Lee looked like was because he was on trial of the Incredible Hulk. He was a juror. You can look it up.
Yes.
And he was on the Muppet Babies too.
Mm-hmm. And so I could go through and say, okay, hey, look, I don't know who's writing this, but this is great. But this is great material, so I can go through and use this. I can go through and take these pieces. I can say, I love this, this, and this, and not have to go through and be apologetic about it. Which we'll get into being apologetic about stuff in a second. The second thing is going to go through and be my role playing. As we mentioned, Hawk and I have been friends, been doing this for a very long time. Down the circle and the square of Springfield, running games with 100, 200 people. Very long time. Yeah, make me just sit there, huh? Now, in doing this, in role-playing and role-playing games, I've been able to go through and build some wonderful friendships and build some wonderful characters that have lasted a long time. And I've learned how to go through and do things like the right story. And sorry for any players who are listening to this, how to manipulate people and manipulate their emotions to go through and get reactions. Sorry, it's part of the game. Love you, though. But in doing all of that, I was able to go through and say, okay, this is who I want to go through and be, because I understand how to go through and play a different role and how to be something different and convey somebody different. Or even if you want to go through and talk with a different accent for a second, you got to kind of know who you are. And I've learned to go through and be me. So that way I'm not lost there, so I can go and separate, this is William from that Southern gentleman, or from that werewolf, or from that guy with the lasers, or so on.
Why couldn't
And
the wolf have the lasers, man? That's racist.
no, that's speciesist. Get it right. But I mean, when we look at it, there was a time like when we were back there playing and everything. Then there was a time that I would go through and I didn't want to go through and be that nerd guy because that caused me hell. That got me beat up. When we were playing on the square, my parents didn't know that because I would have had hell to pay, not from going down the square, but from doing stupid nerdy stuff at all hours of the night.
Yep.
Even though it was perfectly fine, I was perhaps the safest place because there was like 70 people that if something happened, I got 70 bodies that's going to kick the crud out of somebody.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And you know what? You and Gary brought up a really interesting point that I don't think people really know about us. There are two things that you guys don't know about us as Black nerds, what we experienced, what we had to deal with as life that you probably don't know. First of all, and all I remember, Keith mentioned Star Wars. Gary mentioned Keith mentioned Star Trek. Gary mentioned Star Wars. Through our childhood, we had to seek out and search out the Black people in these stories because they weren't there in these TV shows. I mean, you know, we had one or two big Black sitcoms, but on the sci-fi side or the nerdy side, you know, I mean, you had
Homeboys from Outer Space.
Right, you had Bruce Leroy, but if you look at Buck Rogers, you had
I
look at it.
Don't mind me interrupting. Here it is. It's like they built Buck Rogers, like white characters, and non-Black characters are written for more of a general audience, but when it's like a head Black character, it's like it becomes a Black movie.
right.
Why can't it just be a general audience movie? And I think they're just now understanding that with movies like Tenet and stuff.
Mhm.
Well, also you have like between the two big comedies that were aimed at geeks and nerds. You know, for my money, you know, it's Community versus Big Bang Theory.
Right.
Now take a look at those casts. Which cast has characters that look like us? Which doesn't?
Community, man.
Right.
Community was, and it's a better written show,
Mhm.
and it is a show from nerds about how they see normal people versus a comedy show with comedy writers who insert the nerd or geek humor because it's really just another thing. It's very and when I say formulaic, you got to understand the people that make that show are some of the same people that made, you know, 2.5 Men and Mom.
Mhm.
They're very good at what they do. Okay, I'm not criticizing them for being bad. I'm just saying very formulaic, and you couldn't come up with more than one person of color to be on your show.
Actually, hang on, Keith. I just because you and I've had this discussion about those people, and I don't care if they're watching. I don't care if they're like what I'm getting ready to say. Because you and I thought it was the greatest enhancement we ever came up with. Chuck Lorre and his TV shows is just one goddamn recipe, and he just changes the ingredients every damn time.
Yeah.
And if you want your meal to taste better, add some spice to that damn recipe, and you would have more than one Black person on Mom.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
they had no Black people.
Community was a show that really was how nerds see normal people.
Yeah.
And that is more advanced than just having a show where you get to laugh at geeks and nerds.
Mhm.
And
That's the big difference.
And to bring it back, so yes, first of all, we did have to search out we had to try to track down our own influences, our own heroes to worship because they just weren't there. Okay.
Yeah.
Then you add to the fact and it's like Will said, the nerd part. Now, having to just, if my father knew at any point in time that I was on the square role playing with Will, oh my Lord. Oh my Lord, no. Why aren't you out playing basketball? Not that I didn't play basketball. I could do both.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we weren't just, and guys, correct me if I say this wrong, we weren't just ostracized by one community. We were ostracized by multiple communities that were supposed to be influencing us.
Mhm. Or even from outside perspective of other communities looking at you saying, well, I expected you to go through and be X, Y, and Z, you're like, but still to go back and leave the weapon. You watch your enemy, but you're black. Like yes.
Yes.
And I can go through and I could sing this theme song in Japanese. And let's move on.
When you guys were talking about TV shows, Keith probably knows this because he knows everything about media. I can never surprise him with anything. It's insane. I've known him for like 20 years, never been able to do it. If you can, you are excellent at what you do. But there's a show called Living Single on Fox. You guys probably remember that.
Queen Latifah, Kim Fields, Erica, and I can't remember the other girl's name.
Queen Latifah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Queen Latifah, Kim Fields. I can't remember the actress that played Maxine.
Kim Coles.
Kim Coles.
And you had
Kim Coles. Yes.
oh man.
Erica something, isn't it, Keith?
Oh, it's been so long since I've seen that show. And personally, that really was slightly better than Friends, in my opinion. But that's
yeah, exactly.
Actually,
exactly. I will never be able to pick up anything without him knowing it. But yeah, essentially, it was taken by a guy over at NBC, and he created Friends.
Yeah.
Living Single, it's original Friends. And I'm telling you right now, go watch like a couple episodes and then go watch a couple episodes of Friends. It's the same thing. They took the formula.
And it was such a different...
Another quote I wanted to give you guys. Here's a quote I'm going to give you guys about how I feel about black nerdom in a nutshell, because I believe being a black nerd, you're almost a minority within a minority, because you even sometimes get other black people making fun of you because of it.
Yep.
So it leads me to this line that Earl Sweatshirt said. He goes, I felt too white for the black kids and too black for the white kids. And I think that's a big, like, you know, I heard that, I was like, holy shit, that's like totally true. Like when you're a black nerd, and he's a total nerd, like him, Tyler the Creator, like all those guys at Odd Future, they're all nerds. They make nerd references and all that. And it's just like, God, these kids kind of grew up.
You get me.
Shit I had
you get me.
Right?
But we didn't have that kind of rap. You know what I'm saying? We didn't have that message out there back then. Even though we had hip hop, it wasn't in the forefront as it should have been. You know, because even those guys are like, no, I'm a nerd, but I got to reel it back a little bit. You know, I got to keep it more street than whatever. And I'm telling everybody right now, if you haven't listened to this artist named MF Doom, you need to go listen to him right now. Listen to an album called Mad Villainy. Don't skip through tracks. Don't shuffle it. Listen to it from beginning to end. It will change your perception of hip hop. It's insane.
Or like I remember when I was listening to music, and it's actually at a time when MTV actually still played music, and I turned it on. And it was one of those very rare things, and I was like, "Hey, is that black guy talking about skateboarding?"
Yeah, Lupe Fiasco.
Yeah, like,
Fiasco, yeah.
He said, oh. and it's
I used to get made fun of for skateboarding. Man. I used to get made fun of. And I used to get made fun of just for wearing a Speed Racer t-shirt.
And then he goes on talking about robots. I'm like, what? Have we arrived? Have we arrived? Are we here? Is this the future? This is the future that they told me about. Oh, thank you, Lordy. What's a jetpack? I want to go.
So, ironically, here's my story. I started rapping and breakdancing because I almost got caught going to one of my friends' house to play D&D. So I had to flip the script, change my street cred to protect myself. You know what I'm saying? Not that I didn't like what I loved dancing and I loved rapping. Lord glory that I got from doing that. But I wasn't gonna let these people find out about what I'm doing over here. Hell no. You know?
Now, just in the nerd reference, I used to go through and we used to go through and have poker talk. So D&D was never poker, and it was that way for several years. Of which, because quite frankly, it scared away the ladies. I'm just being honest here. So on Sunday, me and the boys, we'd go through and play poker.
Yeah. It's been a long journey. And if you guys don't really appreciate or understand, when we're at, whenever time you see us at the next con or whatever, and you ever want to ask us, I mean, we're not going to spend hours like this talking, but we'll tell you, and we'll be straight up with you. Yes, it's been a long journey for all of us. It's ups and downs, something of a struggle from time to time, not always, but we've lived a life. When Will said it, have we arrived? People are looking at what's happening to us as a people.
Yeah.
And I wish I could have got there's several females that I wanted to bring on the show to join us because they're struggling.
Can I specify something?
Go right ahead.
Can I specify something really quick?
Go right ahead.
Yeah, the people, not the ones you think are the good ones and the bad ones, the people. Let's just specify right there. Sorry, you know how I am. Go ahead.
Yes. You're right. Despite the struggle that and despite, like Will said, we have arrived. We ain't arrived yet.
Yeah.
Me, the four of us, when we see lights and sirens, our hands go on our dashboard. Not because we want to, not because we're guilty. We want to make sure we get home that night, because that is the reality in which we live. It's
your
real.
life can depend on somebody's mood. Like, imagine that. Imagine living like that. Your life in someone's hands, depending on how they view you and people like you. So they already have like a perception in their head, especially if you work in law enforcement and you're not around Black people and you don't interact or talk to them. They're policing neighborhoods where they don't even know the people that they're policing. That's do you hear me? You hear how crazy that is?
Yes.
Like, what? And there's people that are probably more than capable that could be police in that neighborhood and police their own neighborhood because they know the people in those neighborhoods. They do it out in Beverly Hills and in LA. If you don't believe me, go check it out. They have like a Jewish version and then they have an LGBTQ version, or they police certain neighborhoods, and it's awesome.
And if you're still not aware of the type of conversation we're having, look at these people. Look at these four people. Show of hands. Who's been pulled over mostly for being Black?
And I'll tell you the reason why I haven't been, because I really don't go anyplace. Yeah. You guys know me. I don't go places.
I was gonna say, you either don't go anywhere or you teleport. Those are the only two options.
And if you teleport, I wouldn't be saying this on the chat. That's hypothetically.
Hey, edit that part out.
and mind you,
apparently Black people can teleport too. So we're gonna discuss this with you guys later.
If they know, they will come after us more.
They'll send Samuel L. Jackson after us. They'll try to track us down.
Which that could have been such a much better movie, but we can discuss that at a different point.
Hey, I was watching. Go ahead, Gary.
Oh, go ahead, bud.
No, you go ahead. Go right ahead. I'm the guest. You go right ahead.
I was gonna bring up two very just two words, and you guys are gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. They've become very popular set of words within the last couple of years. Code switching. Yes, familiar with that term?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's talk about code switching.
Okay.
Use it. I do. I got it sometimes.
Yeah,
but
I feel like as Black nerds, though, honestly, we don't have to code switch because we're like, dude, what you see is what you get.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna bullshit you or like be this guy over here, this guy over here. Like, as an artist and having an artist personality, you guys know this. That's why which thank you for the invite. He knows that I speak my mind. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything.
Yeah.
Well, isn't it a great step in the right direction that we don't have to? I know Will's done it. I don't know about Keith. I think Keith has done it, but I know I did. I had to. I had at least 4 different personas. At one point, I questioned whether or not I had multiple personality disorder because I had so many ways I had to act in certain times. You know, I can still, people don't know this. I can actually talk ghetto. I don't.
Yeah, the dialect is hard.
I can't around my father, but when I left the house, oh man, you know what? Screw that. To hell with you. I can. I'm not going to. My mama raised me right.
Well, for me, it's all about just, it was always about being intelligent. And to be perceived as such, you have to act as such. And my mother's mother, my grandmother, was very adamant about that. You there are times where you just got to make a stand, and you want to be perceived a certain way, you got to act a certain way. And if people don't like it, that's their problem. If problems come with that, that's something that you got to deal with right then and there. You guys have probably noticed that, I didn't really get into cosplay very much, not because I didn't like it, but because that was a little outside of it was kind of a little bit too much for me. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed all the people that did it.
I was gonna say, you're one of the greatest appreciators of costumes. Keith will rattle off some stuff. I'll be standing next to him. He'll start rattling off costumes. I'm like, man, that's not even English. What are you talking about? I mean, he's good. Well, he knows them all.
That's because, my nerddom, though, had to come in the form of knowledge rather than through even clothes. Because when I was growing up, they didn't offer a lot of the clothes that, you saw eventually. I would have worn Speed Racer on a t-shirt if they had offered that when I was coming up, I would have done a lot of that stuff, but there wasn't anything. So I had to keep it all.
Until a live action movie came out, then we wouldn't ever do it.
Yeah, well,
I had to keep those shirts of those properties and stuff were created for adults until like the mid to late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because they just assumed kids wanted to wear all that stuff. It's like, dude, I want to wear Robotech now.
Yes, but also like a lot of other things, anything that was truly cutting edge geek or nerd was offered in a lot of major metropolitan areas, New York, LA, especially, back when I was growing up in the 80s, you had to basically wait for any imports that came in if you were talking anime. It had to come in through either New York or LA. And then eventually to where, I had to find its way to the Midwest, which again, but like being the youngest child of 20 to get the hand-me-down, you get what's left.
or the dub of the dub, or the copy that's been sent down across.
Oh my Lord!
We were all Ron. We were all Ron Weasley.
Yes. Or Cockroach.
Can I just say, by the way, that I think it's awesome that you guys, though you don't do it anymore, I think it's awesome that you guys do cosplay stuff. I think it's really.
I have. My favorite cosplay will be debuted at Planet Comic-Con. Assuming I can find this, there's a little round thing that I'm missing. It's about yay big. They don't offer it for the black character yet. They only offer it for the white character currently still. But I guess it's about this big. And
I will go through and give you a message because somebody may have that.
Do they have that one though?
Not that one, but I can get you one and you can paint over it.
Which, and you know what? Well, let me ask you something. And it's not off topic, but it is. I found it bothersome when looking for that particular item that it's not offered yet, still. And
I think that one's I think that's a yet. We're seeing. All right. So,
But should it
so
be?
going back to it, I know it shouldn't be, but let's go through and take a look because yes, I'm going to sound like an old head, grumpy old man. Yes, I got beat up as a kid, and a lot of bad stuff happened to go through and get here. And we haven't not arrived, but we're on the way. We're in the car at least, and so we're seeing new things pop up, and we're seeing other things like 10 years ago. 20 years ago, no. 10 years ago, really probably not still. We wouldn't have had like a Falcon and a Winter Soldier come out. That would have been a
honestly, correct me if I'm wrong, Keith, that wasn't even the plan originally. That was never going to happen.
What you mean having a black Captain America?
Right.
That actually became part of the plan from Marvel Comics. Now, 20 years ago, of course not. But since then, we've Captain America, as far as the brand that Marvel has gone through several iterations. Sam Wilson has been one of them. I just hope that we're allowed to keep Sam Wilson as that character for a while.
How proud
I would like to see him be this character and not just a transitory thing where, okay, he has it for a moment and let's go on to someone else. Yeah. I'd like to see him keep it for a while and see what can be done.
And let me ask you guys this, and I've been meaning to ask all of you this. First of all, how proud were you of that series? Because they could have screwed it up and they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I was as proud of that series as I was Lovecraft Country, you know.
Yeah.
I had one problem with the Watchmen television series. Outside of that, I loved it, but I had one problem with the Watchmen series that really kind of almost invalidated the entire show, you know. Personally, and again, this is going to sound kind of blasphemous. I personally didn't think you needed the Dr. Manhattan character in that show.
No.
You could have built
so.
You could have built everything around the characters that have been built up to that point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Without even going into the whole thing with Dr. Manhattan. Yeah, I mean, there are many instances for me. I mean, but those three really being the most recent are just phenomenal. And being a person of color, I don't think you can be any prouder, you know, but
Dude,
then again, I'm just, you know.
Them is really good too.
Yeah.
On Amazon. Them is amazing. And they're going to do another one. They're treating it like American Horror Story, where it's like there's going to be another one because this one's called Coven. So the next one's going to be called something else. And it's going to be set around another family. So
cool.
That's awesome.
Well, folks, you have been hanging out with some of the coolest guys ever. Three of the biggest influences in my life. And I want to tell you guys a story. I don't think you guys know this. And it's like Will says, if we haven't arrived yet, we're at least in the car. We are probably running late, let's face it. But still, we're in the car.
Are we black people running late? I'm just down the street. I walk up the door.
Hey, I look at it this way. You know what? We gave the world cyberpunk. So
Keith, do you remember one of my proudest moments as a father? My son used to be on the show, and in one of his tirades, he blurts out. Now, mind you, I was a very uninfluential father. I just let him do his thing. I didn't try to influence him because I've had that in my life. So when he yells out how Black Panther is one of the greatest superheroes of all time, if not the greatest, I was so proud. So I could not wait to take this boy to see the movie. I don't know if I told you guys this. So we're in the movie and it's packed. So automatically we're proud. Mind you, it's 6 black people and 200 white folks, but we're still proud as a people. Here we go. Movie comes on. It's great. Now, I think me and Keith have experienced this in our regular life. I'd never experienced this with my son. I never thought I'd experience it in Springfield. Movie ends. Before the credits, just the movie ends. These people stood up and clapped. This movie got a standing ovation in a movie theater.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm sitting there as a father looking at my son, extremely proud that he got to experience this. Then a fight breaks out. Two white boys, full on brawl, almost hurt a kid. Me and the other brother in the theater break it up. So my son got to see his father be diplomatic and break it up. And he got to experience all of that in a lifetime with me. Mm-hmm. And now my son has seen a Black Captain America. So to all the people that are watching this, my thing is, even though a lot of the things we said today might have hurt your feelings, and I'm not going to apologize for them because I'm trying to let you experience the experiences that the four of us have experienced. We want you to know the truth. I'm no longer going to hide it from you. When I know for me personally, if I think someone is a racist, do not dismiss what I say. Dear God, don't do that.
It's like, that's a racist statement. They're like, oh, well, but no, there's no fucking but. It's like, it's a racist statement, man.
You know? And if you are with one of your friends, your Black friends, and they feel, if you even think they feel threatened, figure out how much of a friend they are. I know how I react. When I joined the military to serve and protect. So if you are around me, you are under my protection. So think about that when you are with one of the three of us in public. And on that note, Keith, give me your final thoughts, my brother.
Again, I also believe we're on the way. I think things will change once we're allowed to have our own creations be up on the big screen and be on television instead of creating Black versions of different things. And there's nothing wrong if somebody wants to experience and change some things, but my thing is, if you really want to do something different, if you really want to help people of color see more of themselves, let's have some creators of color create these characters and put them out there. That's what I'm saying. You know, let Milestone be the ones to put out the big superhero films for a while. Let's just see what can happen when you allow creators of color to create the next generation of nerdy and geeky characters. That's all. I mean, again, everything that we've experienced, including Black Panther, were all characters created by people that just didn't really look like us. And while I appreciate those characters, I think we've gone to a point where we can actually now have people of color create characters that people of color can look up to. So speaking for a creator, a Black creator of color, Gary Burdell, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Well, first of all, again, thank you for having me here. This has been wonderful. Well, another thing that we kind of touched on a little bit, I'm really glad that a lot of Black horror properties are coming out. Get Out was great. Mm-hmm. Us was great. Jim is awesome. Lovecraft Country, there's some great stuff coming out, and the fact that it's based around like racism and like the horrors that we go through as people, mm-hmm. and they're making those connections and making these films, and even white audiences can like connect with that even in just a little bit small way. It's awesome, and I think it's going to keep growing, and I think that's the end of it that I really, really want to be in. That's the pool that I'm swimming in right now. So that's all I got to say.
I like that they used a reference from They Live in another Black movies. Like, didn't Black folks stop drinking tea after Get Out? That was one of the funniest lines in that movie for me. So, Will.
Well, They go through and steal it. They go Sister Potent. To go through and steal a line. I believe that children are the future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. I look forward. But I seriously look forward to seeing what next generation can go through and do. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud that I'm a black nerd, and I had some trials and tribulations to go through and get where I am, but I'm proud to be where I am. And I hope that other people can go through and build upon that, that now in a society we have the ability for that little black kid that wants to go through and watch anime, that wants to go through and be rolling some dice, that wants to go through and write a horror story, that he can go through and say, you know what, I can do this, and I can go and be proud of what I'm doing. I don't got to hide, and I can just go out there and I can be me, and I can let my nerd flag fly. And if I can have that, if I can see that in the next generation, then I know that it's a better world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Preach.
Just let's just see what they can do. I'm anxious to see what happens. Again, we need new characters. Let's let black creators and other creators of color just create those characters. I don't need to see another black version of whatever. No more hyphens anymore. Let's just see those characters that
No more hyphens,
out.
no more asterisks, no more parentheses. Just, you know.
No more black people. No more black people with lightning powers.
And no gatekeepers that don't look like us, because the gatekeepers need to understand. They don't understand the culture of the characters,
right?
So they're just like, oh, okay, let's make this black, let's make this. No, those gatekeepers either need to change or they need to understand the gatekeeping that they're doing, because even without these big companies, guys like us are still creating and we're still putting stuff out there. So and a lot of those studios are coming to guys like us instead of us to them. So keep that in mind.
You got it.
All of that's very important too. And I mean, all these people want to get to this point in society that they believe they should be at. Well, don't just act like it's here. It's not. Y'all can't just work. You can't just wish it to be and it be. This is not Harry freaking Potter. We have to get there. We have to make sure we all go. Pick us all up. You know, that's one of the things that I do. I don't just take, I don't pick and choose who go with me. Everybody, we all going. We're all going together. That's what needs to happen. You know, I don't want to see a show that has 16 white people and one black guy.
Yeah, we're done with that one.
That doesn't even make sense.
That's played out.
It doesn't. I mean, and I hate to say it, but we still see it. Stranger Things, we still see it. Almost every ensemble piece has the one little black kid.
And I'll say
just
this
not at all, because you still don't have any black people in what's the name of the show? Superman and Lois. Come on.
Well, and there are. Oh, go ahead.
You can tell that in Stranger Things that like they don't know how to write black characters. Like they don't really do much with Lucas, and they didn't until like season 3, and then like his sister. But they still don't know. I enjoyed the series. Don't get me wrong, people. You can throw stones later. I don't care. But
I love the
Lucas
series.
Wasn't written well. Yeah, but Lucas wasn't written well.
To be clear, I'm going to be very clear about what I just said, because I think I can say this about all 4 of us. We have been that little black kid in Stranger Things for most of our life.
Yes.
I'm not dogging that little black kid. I have been that black kid. Matter of fact, I remember, Will, do you remember this? I had been at VisionCon all day on a Friday. All day, Saturday rolls around. So now I'm there Saturday. And Will walks in the door. And I did a goddamn happy dance. And ran up and gave him a hug like, you know what, I've been waiting for you all day. I ain't seen another black person all weekend. So I've been that little black kid.
Wait. Time. VisionCon all day and you hadn't seen me? Well, where were you?
You were busy with the guest. You were busy with the guest the entire time. You were in another part of the building. I hadn't actually seen you.
Oh.
So, but my point is, I have been the little black kid in Stranger Things, and I get it, and it did happen in the 80s. And and Gary's right. He's not written well, but he did exist. But in reality, in that little town that they were in, he wouldn't have existed there. Now, if they had
Or,
moved,
or he would have been the only one.
if they had moved him 180 miles to the east, to close to just outside Chicago. Boom.
Yeah, and that would have been a completely different story. That's kind of like when you go through and you look at people that are trying to go through and do like the Wizard of Oz and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I have no problem with the Wizard of Oz. I have no problem with the Wiz, but they're two different things. Wizard of Oz was about people in this very small town in Kansas that I'm guessing at that point would have absolutely no black folk. So if you ever go through and redo the Wizard of Oz and you set it in that setting, I probably wouldn't expect to go through and see any black folks. If you go and do the Wiz, which is set in Harlem, it should be everywhere.
Right.
Context.
And not even that. Let's go even farther out. Some of the most influential movies in my childhood was Star Wars, Star Trek, and I remember when Dune came out. I really liked the premise of Dune, even though the movie itself wasn't great.
Are you talking?
Blasphemize.
Are you talking DOOM or DUNE?
DUNE.
Dune, Arrakis Desert Planet. I can start quoting that movie. I actually have that whole thing memorized. The entire movie memorized.
I loved 85% of that movie, but where were the black people? There's no black people in space? None?
No, because they got eaten by the worms. Because you have to walk with them.
It's
it's
like an
desert.
old Eddie Murphy joke about haunted houses and black folk. I mean, that pretty much
black
stops
folks don't
pretty
mind
quick.
the heat.
Yes,
But you hear a voice that says "Get out," you're gone. It's like, well, guess we gotta leave, baby. You know.
Which is, you know what? Which is one of the reasons why I love Get Out, because God, it was really well done. And not every black creator is going to have a hit, but he crushed that one.
Well, black nerd.
Okay, let's give credit to a really good black horror film, Tales from the Hood. I think Tales from the Hood.
That's fabulous.
Film, man. That was a great film.
And to educate people a little more, even go check out. My father was one of those people that would bring home whatever he read on the back of a car. He didn't look at the front because he was in it. He read the back. So at a very young age, I got to see Brother from Another Planet, which was an independent black film. And I think that's what got me into being a creator. Because they had no money. They had no money to make that. And they knocked it out of the park, and they gave us a lesson, because that's what at the time everybody had to do. If you had to do a movie, you had to teach a lesson while you're doing it. And so that one was basically a low budget ET, but for black people.
Yes.
So, and that was. This has been so awesome. This is us four talking, man. And watch this. I'm gonna do this real quick. We're gonna rapid fire this. For Gary, I mentioned something like Robotech, Voltron, Thundercats. Thundercats is what we need, Gary. A good Thundercats is what we need. Not even animated.
I heard they're working on a film.
They still are not.
They are not. Seen the 2008 version of Thundercats?
I liked it.
It's really good.
I liked it. I liked it a lot. It was so different, and I think that's the thing about being a nerd that's kind of hard to deal with, is we're not great with change all the time, and they changed it. Because you're also a weirdo, but. And then watch this, folks. Watch this. I'm gonna go on a diagonal right over here and say, I was in Metagames, Will, and their gaming library is so small. You're actually on the same level as them. So my God, you're a nerd. And you're not so many.
Yeah, this is nothing. I am friends with. I'm friends with people that own a bookstore in town, a board game store in town.
Nice.
And we've gone through and we've compiled our collection. So there is a room in town somewhere that has many volumes.
And then, folks, again, we're just going to
Different games. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful
turn my
thing.
head this way, and I'm gonna look at Keith and be like, "Hey, I got to ask, what did you think? How do you think John Cena personally is going to affect all these things he's touched in the next couple of months? Because honestly, I don't think I like his character for Suicide Squad. I don't think I'm gonna like it. I don't like his costume. I know that much. He has my least favorite costume of anything that's coming out ever. And then, but I don't know if he's a strong enough actor to compete with what they're trying to do with Fast and the Furious.
Wait, whoa. When you say ever, do you mean like all costumes in general? So it's worse than Zardoz, like Sean Connery?
Whoa. Sean Connery is always the man. He even makes bad costumes look good. Okay.
Come on. Hooker boots and a diaper. I mean, come on.
Sean Connery. Okay.
Oh.
Sean Connery is the guy that pretty much up until he died, women would just lose it for him. Okay. So that guy had game. Like even after he died, he had game. So
Keith, where are you at on this Highlander reboot? Where you at on that?
Oh, I'm look, I know that Chad Stahelski has been talking about this since the first John Wick movie came out that I think he was the director on. And he had talked about it again when he directed Atomic Blonde. What you're talking about is making a Highlander movie with the same stunt team that did Atomic Blonde and John Wick.
Okay,
and you're putting that in the Highlander universe.
I'm okay with that. Then
are you ready for that?
I'll be honest with you. I loved Highlander the series. Of course, I got more excited when there was a black character involved but I absolutely loved the. So I'm a big. Other than that second and third movie, I'm good.
Hold on, wait. There's one other thing you need to know about this movie, right? And I was talking about this the other night on the show. I'm all about Highlander, but I'm really about the guy who actually created Highlander. Okay, the guy by the name of Gregory Wyden, not the people that bought the script and turned the script and used the script, because they kicked Gregory Wyden out after the first movie came out, which is the reason why the second movie sucked so much, right? Well, Chad Stahelski is smart enough. Chad Stahelski was smart enough to get Gregory Wyden as a part of the team that's developing Highlander now. Nice. So the creator of Highlander is a part of this project. So yeah, you're going to have Henry Cavill, the guy who pretty much, in my opinion, is Superman. And you're going to make him a part of this because Warner Brothers, well, up until last week, filled with idiots. You know. All
right, folks, we're going to wrap this up real quick. I'm going to go around. We're going to do best black moment, that black nerd moment. And for me, I'm going to go first instead of last to give you guys a chance to think. Do you guys remember when Jesse Martin was on X-Files? And he did that episode where he was the alien baseball player?
Yeah.
Best black nerd moment for me in my life. One of the absolute best. He was amazing. And it was a good episode. And of course, Jesse's just, Jesse's awesome. Everything he touches. Gary.
Glow, man, Last Dragon.
I knew you were going to do that. That's why I didn't say it.
I already knew. Yeah, you knew that. All you knew that. It's the Glow. But the Last Dragon. Who's the master? I am. Boom. Get out of here, stupid. It's fucking
and going right to you, right to your left to the only other person I've known that ever wanted to play Show Enough. Will.
What do you want to do? The only time I've ever been trending on Twitter was with a Show Enough costume. So I won't say wanted. So I would go through and say, because I love The Last Dragon as well, but you already took it. So I'm going to go through and we're going to do a deep cut. And favorite nerd moment would be when Benjamin Sisko became captain. And so he finally went, okay, black captain. Yeah, I knocked the stuff down. It's all.
Wow.
That was a big moment because he didn't start the show as a captain.
Nope. He was lieutenant commander.
It was a huge moment for me. Key.
Man, from the moment you posed this question, I knew what I was going to do. I was kind of surprised that Will came close because for a moment there I was scared he's going to take what I was going to say, but he stuck with the whole Ben Sisko as captain. For me, it's the entire episode of Far Beyond the Stars from DS9. That entire episode is just phenomenal, and it is so well written. It is far beyond the capabilities of the people who currently run Star Trek right now to be able to write something like that. That's what I'm going to end with.
Can I give an honorable mention really quick? I want to give an honorable mention to Reggie and Friday the 13th Part 5, because he survived that film, and he's the first black guy who ever survived Friday the 13th film.
Well, wait. What about Anaconda? And what about black guys surviving? That became a thing.
Yeah, because LL Cool J did. No, it was Mario Van Peebles survived. What Jaws was that?
I think it was Jaws
3.
Yeah, I think it was Jaws 3.
But he died in the European cut.
I think LL Cool J also survived the shark movie.
Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah.
But Reggie is, dude, that was like back in the 80s. That was like a thing. We always died in movies. But he was the first.
That's a good honorable mention.
Okay, I'll give it.
You've been watching probably one of my favorite episodes of the show to make. Each one of these people right here is a major reason for an influence in both this show and things I do. I am proud to have them as friends. I'm so honored to have them here today. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, all three of you gentlemen. Guys, that's our show for this week. I am so grateful for my guests. This has been so much fun. You guys, I wish you guys could see half of the talking we do behind the scenes and after the show is over, because the four of us actually love each other. Real quick, we're gonna plug everything. We're gonna start with Will. Give me all your infos, Will, your Instagrams and your Snap tickets and all that good stuff. Go ahead, Will.
Well, you can follow me at Go Through and See Gary Burdell. Go through Keith Parker's Instagram, because I ain't got one.
Well, now, are you going to get back to cosplaying soon?
I may. If I do, I'll go through and get something started up, and I will go through and hit you up. So I'll give you the first chance at an interview.
So you guys can find Will on Facebook. He's like one of my favorite cosplayers. When he's not cosplaying, he's role playing, and he's honestly, I consider him a role playing expert. And that's not a term that I use lightly, because role playing is difficult. So be sure to look for him. I got future plans for Mr. Will and being a part of Fanatics and fan and some stuff we got going on. I'm happy to have
live stream game.
You can also find him on Fellas with the Nerds, which is a group designed for mental advocacy for nerds. All right, Gary, give me the stuff, man.
Artist Gary Burdell. That's on Instagram, facebook.com, Artist Gary Burdell. On artistgaryburdell.com, you can also get a copy of Graveyard Slaughter. You get a copy of my sketchbook entitled One, and you can get a digital copy of my art book Thawed.
And Gary is honestly one of my all-time favorite artists because of the nerd connection that we have and some of the things we think. His style and its unique style. I mean, I could say he was influenced, but it's like, I know that's Gary's one. That's Gary's one. And it's not even that hard for me to point out. All right, Keith.
Also, if you haven't yet, go to the VisionCon site and check out some episodes of the Pin Click.
I have. It's awesome.
We have 8 episodes.
Okay.
Season 2 will be in September.
I watched you guys on VisionCon, virtual VisionCon, and it was spectacular to see you guys work that fashion. It's one of my favorite things to see. To see a group collaboration like that is really special to me.
It's great. The guys I'm doing it with, well, we call ourselves Clever Kaiju, and these guys are awesome. Like they're the best of the best. I feel like Nick Fury when I went to these guys. I'm like, hey, why don't you come out? Draw with us and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. As I put together a team, I need you to come to breakfast with us, Big Mama. So we started like going down there and meeting and just drawing and talking shop, and then just turned into something bigger with Discord, and then bigger because we're going to be doing workshops and stuff like that too. So very excited.
Very exciting. I'm actually, like I said, Gary's art is some of my favorite art. I've got at least one piece in my house somewhere, and I'm trying to add to it if he ever answers his phone.
I'm the worst, dude. I'm the worst.
He's a working man. He's a working man.
My mom gets on to me about it too, so don't feel bad.
I would happily come up and defend you, Gary, if I didn't agree that you are the worst. Although
I just told you I was that.
Just kick him when he's down. Put the boots to him.
You are still programmed in my phone as asshole Gary, though. So
nice. Don't ever change that. That's very sentimental.
Oh wow. Let's see. You've got YouTube. You can find me at Pop Culture Minefield with Gary Cassell. We've got all of these big guests planned for our show. We just recorded another event with Chuck Dixon, and yeah, I know. Guess what? Chuck owes us big, and he'll be back on our show coming up. And then we also have several other big guests. We're trying to get Robert Meyer Burnett back, and a few other names that I can't mention without getting Gary mad at me. But I'm trying to dance around a lot of that stuff.
Not me, other Gary.
And then I also have my own show on Monday called Keith Chimes In, and you can find that on YouTube under the Fat Steven Seagal channel. And we are spending time working through Babylon 5. And we'll be ending that in a few weeks, and then we'll jump on to another big thing that I get to talk about and take people through, and it's great. You can find me on Instagram at Call Minefield, and also on the Keith Moncrief on Instagram, and also on Twitter, Call Minefield again. And check us out as we are attempting to launch several other interesting things coming up. Oh, and we will be doing conventions. You'll see us at Planet Comic Con because, we like that. We do business big. And definitely going to be at Geekmas. We look forward to that. Gary Cassell and I constantly bring up Geekmas and Hawk and how much we really enjoy doing it, and using Geekmas really to blame Geekmas for why we're together, because that's really the show where we got together and started doing our thing, and that helped us to launch Pop Culture Minefield. But we haven't forgotten about you, Hawk. Trust me, we got plans for you, young man. You guys
gonna interview Hawk?
Hawk, and hopefully we can get around to interviewing Mr. Gary Burdell and William. Yeah, got plans for you too. So
I'm scared, boss.
You should be.
As long as he doesn't involve
That's why we're friends. I was waiting for that response, and that's why we're friends.
And of course, you can find us, of course, on YouTube as Fanatics and Fan, as well as Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Look up Fellowship of the Nerds, as well as look up Geekmas 2021. We have one guest already announced, Mickey Mouse, as well as we're giving away a PS5 at Geekmas this year. We've moved to a much larger location. We'll be at the Relic Center. I'm very excited about that. I've got a lot of big plans coming up. You'll see a lot more information. I want to make sure that a lot more of you are vaccinated.
Yes.
I still feel like the COVID was Gary's dread's fault, but we forgive him.
Oh yeah, I didn't even catch it. I'm like Weapon X.
Terminator exit.
Long hair, don't care.
Folks, this has been one of the greatest Fanatics and Fan I've ever done personally. and I've had a lot of great guests on, but this has been stellar. My final thought would be, we all still love you, but the struggle is real, and it is still here, sadly.
Except for you, Curtis.
But we will get through this together. So, Keith, William, and Gary, my name is Hawk, and it's been Fanatics and the Fan.